So when we talk about open relationships or what an open relationship is, I have kind of a different take on that. Guys, what's good? Happy September. Welcome to the Bird Brain Podcast, where the goal is to rise above it all, stay elevated, create that infinity up your you. Oh man, you would think by this point I can just say that without thinking and without getting tripped up. And then I just have like a thought that crosses my mind and it's like, bleh. But I'm your host Isaiah. How are you guys doing? Oh man, it's funny. You wouldn't believe it, but I still get a little performance anxiety when I do damn near anything. And all I'm doing is just talking to you guys. And it gets me tripped up. It's so funny. I am such a funny guy in the weirdest ways. It's hilarious, but I think it makes life interesting and you know it's just it's like when you catch little quirks, it's just something to appreciate even more and just recognize the humanness of who you are, right? I also think, the more receptive you are to your humanness, I think the more understanding and aware you are of other people's humanness. And you embrace it, you appreciate it, and you cultivate it, depending on the intentions or authenticity of the person. And it just builds something great. I was thinking about this last week. And there were so many things. Every week, there's always something, right? There's always something that comes up personally. There's always something that comes up professionally. There could be residual haunts. There's just something to embrace and learn. And the thought of open relationships came up for me. And I wasn't thinking about the concept of an open relationship in the ways that most people think about an open relationship, right? It's like, being in an open relationship allows there to be what is initially a what's the word I'm looking for? A monogamous relationship. An open relationship allows other participants and allows the monogamous party to kind of engage in different relationships with different people while still sustaining their, I guess, main relationship. I don't know. But I wasn't thinking about it like that. I was thinking about what relationships are open to growth, right? Having an open relationship, not just with a romantic partner, but having open relationships in life, right? Having open relationships with your friends. And again, I'm not talking about involving other people. I'm talking about incorporating certain principles. For example, the willingness and openness to have a hard conversation, without worrying about there being some kickback or being avoided or being pushed aside, because you are expressing certain feelings, right? Certain offenses, right? Is your relationship open to accountability? Is your relationship open to listening and expression, right? Is your relationship open to a certain level of intention and effort and growth? That's cool to think about, right? And it's something to just kind of explore with anybody in your life. Like, are my relationships, do I have open relationships, or do they feel kind of closed off? What does it take for this relationship to remain intact? What do I have to take? Or what does this other person have to take for this relationship to remain intact? We have all this information out in the world telling us that we should be more tolerant. More tolerant, more tolerant, more tolerant. And what we fail to realize is that a couple of things happen. For one, we learn that this is the status quo for a relationship to work, etc. This is what it takes for a relationship to work. And that's false. That's a fallacy, right? Relationships don't take you being unsafe. Relationships don't take you compromising your own self-worth and sense of peace to withhold. Relationships don't take you being disrespected and maltreatment. It's not what a relationship takes. But if you believe that, right? Let's say this relationship ends. Well, you go out into the world and you find another relationship that fits that mold. And rinse, wash, repeat. And then maybe something finally switches and you go out into the world and that's how you practice in your relationships, right? And now we have this repetitive vicious cycle of dishing out certain behavior with the expectation and entitlement for someone to tolerate it. And now we just have a bunch of hurt people that are passing through each other's hands. Okay? And no one really wants the accountability of what it means to just show up and treat people right. Again, not even just in romantic partnerships. If there's one thing I've noticed, I've just been looking back on even the last 10 years of life. And I'm like, man, there have been a lot of challenges in my relationships. And some have withstood the test of time, truthfully. Others, all it took was a conversation. All it took was a conversation. It is so crazy to think that because, a lot of times we have in our head that, oh man, this person is going to be in my life forever. That's the goal. I plan to have them in my life forever. And then if you look at what forever means, does that mean that I am open to certain practices that don't even align with how I feel? I am open to certain behaviors, right? Or I'm open to not growing myself in order to have this relationship forever. And then all it takes is a conversation. Some people have the threshold, the pain threshold for for certain behaviors, and it's unfortunate because what I've understood is that we will literally convince ourselves that certain things are okay just to kind of quote unquote keep the peace. And in reality, it's not okay. You can drive yourself crazy and make yourself sick trying to sustain a very unhealthy, imbalanced relationship, right? Those kinds of relationships are not open to respect, not open to actual love, not open to care, not open to consideration, right? It's a very closed off relationship, very closed off, right? You are not allowed to have needs, right? It's not okay for you to speak up. It's not okay for you to express yourself. So think about in terms of like, well, how open are my relationships? How open am I? Are you open in your relationships? Are you willing to have an open relationship where somebody can address you and say, hey, this is how this made me feel? This is how I perceived it, right? I'm hurting. Or this is what I'm seeking, this is what I desire. And within reason, how receptive are you to that? One of the things I love about the relationships I have nowadays is how easy the hard conversations are to have, and how peaceful the relationship is afterwards. How easy it is to have hard conversations and how peaceful the relationship is afterwards. How much safer the relationship actually feels because we had a hard conversation. And the reason that is because neither person, I think I've talked about this before, neither person, the goal is to just not be right. The goal is for things to be all right. And yeah, things may be said that are like, not necessarily to attack the other person, but just expressing, hey, this is how I feel. This is how I feel. And the beauty about that is you have the other person who acknowledges you. You have both parties acknowledging each other. And then it's like, well, how can I do better? I'm willing to do better. So I'm going to show up moving forward. And it just creates that pattern of safety. And it is such a beautiful feeling. It is so relaxing. It is such a grateful recognition, right? To just recognize this person on the other side that I'm talking to cares about me. This person cares about how I feel. This person cares to grow, right? This person recognizes who I am. This person recognizes that I see them as well and we care about each other. And they are still willing to show up. You don't have to ask for respect. That's not a ask. And if it feels like you're asking for that, then that is not the space you should be in. You never have to ask to be respected. The reason why is because if a person respects you, that comes from them. Their capacity to recognize and appreciate who you are and value what you do as an individual. And it's also a reflection of their character. How does this person treat people? Right? Not just how they posture, but what's their pattern behavior showing me? Right? How open of a relationship do you have? And you'll know because if your relationship feels a little bit closed off, you kind of have a level of hesitancy about what you say, what you do, how you approach the situation, what you allow, what you tolerate, all for the sake of kind of trying to keep this person happy. Meanwhile, you are miserable. Or they feel that way with you, right? It goes both ways, and it requires you being very intentional, very mature, and very much willing to take care of the relationship that you have. We will have many relationships in life. However, no two people are the same, and people are not replaceable. And I live by that. The reason why is because I've understood through life how fragile life can be, right? How significant people are to my growth, how significant I may be to somebody else's growth. And I go from there. So, with that in mind, I recognize how am I willing to value this person? And how am I willing to show them that I value them? Not just say it, but also show it. And when things do get tough, how do I show up? Is there still a level of safety there, or now is it something different? Okay? Be willing to ask yourself, am I in an open relationship, right? Am I open to a healthy relationship, right? Do I desire to have this in my life, or am I closed off to the idea? Am I closed off to vulnerability? Am I closed off to emotional availability, right? What am I closed off to? What does it seem like this other person is closed off to? And again, this is not just in romantic partnerships, but also friendships. Friendships especially. Those are very intimate connections, whether we understand it or like it or not. Your friendships are very intimate relationships, if you allow it to be. And they could be some of the most influential and impactful connections that you have throughout life. The reason why is because the people you're around really do affect how you move through life, right? How you perceive things, what's okay, what's not. Okay? So the goal is to seek out people who are willing to grow and go through the uncomfortable moments to create safety with you, right? And also hold themselves accountable. It's foolproof because you guys will always continue to grow and you will always continue to be taken care of by one another. And again, I've learned that last week. I continue to learn it as I have these difficult conversations or even healthy conversations. There's just a steady state of comfort. Well, not a steady state of comfort, but a steady state of safety. And that's what you want to look for in your relationships. Do I feel safe? Am I open to understanding what that actually means? Okay. So just think about it and process it and really take a scan of your relationships. Are you in open relationships or are they closed off? Is there a level of possessiveness and imbalance, right? You having to cater or this other person catering to you. What's actually the relationship in itself? And just go from there, right? But be open. Be open to understanding what the actual dynamic of your relationship is. All right? That's all I got for you guys. It's a pretty short one, at least. It feels short, but it was just something that I was really considering in terms of like the openness. You know, I think a lot of times when we hear open relationships, it's just about being able to interact and have, you know, intimacy to some degree with other people versus just understanding how deep is the intimacy within the relationship that you have. Okay. And again, not just romantic partners, but even with your friends, right? Because you can have many friends. You can be friendly with many people, but the true concept and true components of friendship is very rare. Take a look around. So just ask yourself, what do I leave room for, right? What am I open to? What does this other person seem open to? Okay. And never forego asking for what you need in a relationship or a connection or speaking about things that have affected you just to kind of keep the peace, because you'll never be at peace. Okay. And you won't have, or the other person won't have the opportunity to show up and show you exactly who they are and how they value the relationship. That's the beauty about hard conversations, right? It gets a little bit easier to understand who you're in a connection with and how they feel about the connection past their ego, okay? Past their own stuff. You'll learn. You'll level up regardless. All right, so that's all I got for you guys. I'm accepting new clients, open for new clients. The Burberry merch is still available. The coloring book is available. If you guys have ordered the book, they are on their way. We got a pretty large shipment this summer, so just getting those suckers out as quick as possible. Thank you for your patience. And yeah, got some goodies coming. Got some pretty exciting things on the way, as always. I'm always up to something, and I love it. But nonetheless, I hope you guys are always up to something in terms of your growth. And yeah, just growing with the people around you, right? Clear communication, intentional communication, and being open will not hurt any relationship that is worth the effort. And that shows you that you are also worth the discomfort and the effort moving forward. It'll bring you guys closer. It won't separate you. So just remember that, okay? Take care of yourselves. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. All right? Take flight.